Have you wanted to predict the metagame months in advance and know what's coming up next with our next Paldea Evolved set? Well, I have some deck lists for you. Over in Japan, the cards for Paldea Evolved, our next English set, are already released, and they are over there playing competitive tournaments with them. This set will be released in the US on June 9th, giving us plenty of time to use it for the North American International Championships and the Pokemon World Championships. If you're someone who's like already sick of this format, or just thinking about what cards do I need to buy now to be prepared for the future, well, I'm Rahul Reddy, and today we're going to talk about some of the Japanese lists that are performing very well over there. We're going to look at a lot of the top decks, talk about the Champions Festival problem a little bit, and hopefully you guys can enjoy this video. I'm going to do the Champions Festival bit towards the end, so if you guys are here for that, just go skip right to where I talk about Gardevoir. But it would really help out the channel if you like and subscribe. We're going to just look at some lists and talk about them. Over in Japan, we see this Lost Box variant doing very well, using copies of this new stadium called Artisan that lets you get a non-rule box basic and put it on your bench. Basically, a free search card, a free nest ball, which would help pretty much every deck to just set up if they find it in their early opening hand. Yes, it helps your opponent too, but it is a stadium that can bump Path to the Peak and things like that. Zamazenta, being the featured attacker in this build, has become very cool to see, and it deals with a lot of the threats in the upcoming format. Next up, we have chein-pao Palback Scalper. I put out a video today about this, or a couple days ago, sorry, about this, where chein-pao and Palback Scalper are paired together, where Palback Scalper can accelerate a lot of water energies onto the board. Chein-pao can fetch them from your deck, and you can one-shot pretty much any threat in the game. The only problem with a deck like this is that you have two prizers as your main attackers, and well, when you're swinging two and only getting one sometimes, it might not be the most efficient trade. So this deck has to find a way to kind of mitigate that prize trade in a poor way, to win games. But you do have access to a card like Irida that lets you get an item and a water-type Pokemon from your deck, almost effectively guaranteeing you a Palback Scalper on turn 2 every single time if you have a little guy, Frigibax, on your board on turn 1. Next up, we have Intellion Urshifu, a deck that people have been trying to make work for quite a while. This deck has been doing pretty well over in Japan, with its whole Intellion VMAX being able to do 2 damage counters to the board. Raikou falling out of favor in the format, as Lugia is no longer as big as a threat, so it's not as weak to this lightning type archetype. And then Urshifu comes into play and cleans up the board once you have wiped out things like Banafi with the double gunner ability into a yoga loop that's right here, the Metacham, and then you can loop the board and then, you know, clean up with the Urshifu and win the games as you will. You have Cheryl to heal your Pokemon, Iono to break your opponents towards the end of the game, to shuffle their hands in and draw the prize card left. You have Irida to set up as well, and once your Octillery engine is going, you're basically cooking. There's some interesting Arceus variants. Arceus plus Friends has become very popular. Recently, we can see Alolan Vulpix, which recently dominated the European International Championships, has a new partner in Umbreon to gust up some of these bench sitters, and Arceus can dominate that. Squawkability EX is a very cool card coming in the new format, which on your first turn, which is the only turn it can be used, you can pitch your hand and draw 6, I believe. Very cool ability. I think this card will find its way in a lot of decks that need something on turn 1. In this case, Arceus decks usually need to find an Arceus plus energy on turn 1, and so Squawkability can really facilitate that when you get to dig a little bit deeper with something like a Nest Ball or an Ultra Ball. That just lets you start pushing through your deck. Next up, we have Lost Box Giratina, a deck that's become very strong in Japan also because of Jet Energy, being able to get into those Giratinas, one-shot a lot of the board. You have Sableye to clean up the small attackers, Giratina to clean up the big attackers, and that's pretty much the gist of the deck. It just kind of does a lot in a vacuum and is one of the more powerful Lost Box variants and a standalone thing. Then we have chein-pao Palback Scalper, but paired with things like Palkia, V-Star, as well as a secondary attacker. Still the prize, it's a 2 for 2. I don't know what this Kyogre does, but I assume it's a 1-prize attacker that's going to help us out. But if it's not, we need to find some 1-prize attackers that'll help us out in the water decks. But yeah, chein-pao Palback Scalper, once again. Lockbox Sablezard this time around. Sablezard has done very well in the last couple tournaments. Sablezard is very straightforward. Rush straight to your Sableye. Use your multiple copies of Clara. Just set up your board and, well, try to reuse your Charizard a couple times, I guess, is the idea. Decks with Lost City being popular could put a damper in this deck's plan, but it is a very straightforward, consistent list that should honestly be very good in the metagame. And then we have more Arc fun partners. Arc Pika, making its reappearance since the World Championships. Kind of fell off a little bit, but it's coming back. Arc Pika just kind of dominating. Then we have Arc Duraludon, another Arc partner deck here. Same thing, nothing crazy to write home about. Then we have Gardevoir with Champions Festival. Now, this is an interesting list that I grabbed just because, yes, it has a Champions Festival, yes, it has a Sinnoh, but it doesn't have the Drifloon package that everyone has been kind of raving about. It just kind of has this Mimikyu and a Champions Festival. This is very similar to what I played at EYC, but nothing to write home about once again. This could probably be an Artisan and you'd be completely fine. This is an interesting version of Lugia, the colorless build of Lugia, with 3 copies of Unfazed Fat Snorlax coming in to do a ton of damage, with Word Year to move these colored energies, with the Jet Energy as well to move it to the active, propel it there, do a ton of damage. You could even play cards like Regigigas even with the Path in here to one-shot VMAX decks. Yes, it is a 5 energy commitment, but you have the double turbos to facilitate that. Yeah, so Lugia colorless can become a real deck moving forward with more colorless special energies coming into the format. We have another Miraidon-esque build with like a lightning box using the electric generators and the Charm of Courage giving plus 50 HP to these basic Pokemon to make them a little bit bulkier. But at the end of the day, it's like Miraidon is still not good because finding supporters is difficult for the deck. And that's that. Then we have Control making its way into the limelight. Somewhat of just like a block Snorlax stall Control Penny build with the Mimikyu. I don't really know. I'm not a huge fan of Control, but Control has performed recently decently well. Skeleturge EX coming in, doing a lot of fire damage. I don't really know what Skeleturge does. I'm not going to lie to you guys, but it looked really interesting, so I grabbed the list. If this is something that interests you, grab this list and check it out yourselves. Then we have Ting Liu coming in. We're going to have a Ting Liu video up as well, featuring the damage that Ting Liu can do, the Koraidon being able to accelerate to it and power up very, very quickly, and then, you know, just ramping onto the board and doing a ton of damage. Lugia in its normal shell form, using Squawkability as well, because not getting a Lugia on turn 1, it just kind of loses you the game. So you kind of need to get to the Squawkability, and if your opening hand has something like an Archeops in it, it's just much nicer to pitch it with the Squawkability. And capturing a Roma now gives you 1 extra target that is, on a turn 1, a thin, and digging deeper in your deck. So Lugia can now pretty safely put 2 Archeops into the discard before your opponent even gets to play the game, which is a little bit scary because Lugia does not need more tools to be good. Then we have a wo-chien, I think this is a guy, wo-chien version of Sablezard. I don't really know what wo-chien does in here, but probably a ton of damage. Very interesting. 3 VP Pass, lol, don't do that. Anyway, Mew is back as a fusion again. Don't know why Ice Cube's in here, but Fusion Mew and DTE Mew are both still very powerful. Don't forget that, please, please, please. They've been kind of falling off the metagame a little bit, but I think they are still very, very strong. And last but not least, we're going to talk about the Gardevoir EX problem. Gardevoir EX and Champions Festival. If you guys are here for the Gardevoir stuff, thank you for sticking it out this long. The problem with Champions Festival, I'll explain in a bit much longer video, and I just want to break that down sometime coming up soon. But I'm going to make that my own individual video. But today we're going to talk about just Gardevoir EX and what Champions Festival does for this deck. You have this new Drifloon, which does, or Drifloon's from Scarlet and Violet, and Drifloon does 30 times the number of damage counters on it. So with 3 accelerations, you have 60 damage counters. So 6, 180, doesn't do anything. Charm of Courage gives you 50 extra HP, you go to 120. Now you can put 5 damage counters on it, or 5 energy accelerations, go to 10 damage counters. Now Drifloon, swinging for 300. Still not a crazy perfect number. 300, really good for a lot of numbers in the format. But Champs Festival puts you at 310, which is a magic number for Mirror, because you can boss up, 330, or 310, sorry, or 330, but you do the 310, so you can pull up the Gardevoir on the bench and one-shot it in the Mirror match. And that's the whole reason behind this. You can now also, with 330, one-shot Mew VMAX, other VMAXs that are left in the format, yeah, etc. It's just the 300 to 330 number gives you that Zacian Sealstone style effect on a one-prizer, and playing Drifloon plus Charm, 2 copies of each, will probably set your deck up pretty well. This deck is not playing Festival for some reason, but this list, for example, has the Festival, has the Charm, has the Drifloon, is choosing to play. You could even like choose not to play more than 1 copy of Drifloon and play something like a Rescue Carrier. This list is also playing a Picnic Basket to heal and get some more energies onto the board, so you can accelerate to your Shining Arcana Gardevoir and heal with the Picnic Basket and go from there. But at the same time, I feel like that's probably not as good as just playing a Festival. Maybe it is better, I don't know. This triple colored energy, if you're also behind, is also very good because Gardevoir gets a ton of damage just by doing nothing. And this deck will almost certainly be behind. You're almost never going to be playing from ahead for a while, so very interesting strategy here. And then this is the list where Festivals, I think they should have 2 Festival and 1 Artisan, if that's possible. And obviously, Champions Festival is a very expensive card. So thank you for watching. If you guys made it this far, these are some of the Japanese lists that are performing very, very well over there. I'm going to be talking about the problem with Champions Festival and why it is the way it is in a different video. So please check that out in a little bit. Thank you guys for watching, and peace out.